Okie dokie. All right, we're good to go. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Azren, the language nerd. As usual, this is another episode of Tuesday Talks with Azren. So if you're depending on where you're watching this might be the first time you're seeing this because it's streaming on a variety of different platforms. We have this going as usual in the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, which is where this whole thing actually started. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So hello to everybody there. We have this going on YouTube, which is the second place we started to get this going. And then for the first time ever, we have this on my personal Facebook page on Azren, the language nerd. So if you're new to this and you haven't watched this before, we're going to be here for roughly 20 minutes. And every single week, Tuesday at about 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That is the time we use here in Calgary, which is where I live. And I talk about a different language learning topic every single week. In the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, there's a poll, a survey that is posted every single Monday. So one day before this video goes out, there is a survey that gets posted. And that, based on those survey results, that's how I picked the topic for the Tuesday Talks. So today's topic is going to be how to speak with a little bit more confidence in a foreign language. I thought this would be a good topic for us to cover off because that's actually been a topic I've been focused on quite a bit recently. Most of you probably don't know this, but I have been running a free 6-week class online for French and Spanish learners for the past couple of weeks that is actually designed, and the whole goal behind it is to help French and Spanish learners to speak more confidently in their target language, in French or Spanish. And so my mind's definitely been on this topic for a while, and I think that I've quite a few things that I'd like to share on the topic. So without further ado, let's get things started and let's share some different advice on it. So the first thing I want to say, and it's the most common sense piece of advice, is that you actually have to practice. You have to practice speaking. Now, many people feel that they don't have anyone to speak with. Who do I practice speaking with? How do I do that if I don't know anybody who speaks the target language? Well, a great way to practice speaking is to literally take your phone. All smartphones nowadays have a voice recorder, and open up your voice recorder and start talking about different topics. Almost think of it like a journal. When people write in a diary, think of it like a diary, but a diary that you keep on your phone, an audio diary, if you will. And that's a very effective. If you start keeping an audio diary and you start trying to talk about the different things that you would like to talk about, that's really going to help you. I think when you're doing this exercise, one thing that is important to do is to ensure that you do not that you're not writing out your audio journal in advance and you're not just reading it, because that's not really the best speaking practice per se. I want it to be something that you try to do in as spontaneous of a manner as you can. And what I'd probably do if I were in your shoes, what's helped me is that you start recording it. And when you're making a lot of mistakes and it's not sounding very smooth, stop recording and restart from the beginning. And do that over and over. And the next thing you know, you're going to have this nice 1, 2, 3, 4 minute audio journal, right? That's reasonably fluent. And now you can talk about whatever topic you chose for your audio journal. You're able to talk about that with a reasonable degree of fluency. I've done that I've made some Mandarin, I think Gujarati as well. One Gujarati and a couple of Mandarin podcasts that way that I've actually published. This was like years ago. But it took me a long time to record a 6-minute podcast. But what I was doing is I would try to record it and I'd start fumbling over my words. I couldn't find them. So I'd stop. I'd think about it. How do I want to say that? How do I say such and such thing in Mandarin? I'd Google things. I'd look in a dictionary. Once I figured it out, I would try again. So this is a very effective way to start getting more confident and more fluent in speaking another language. So that's one tip, guaranteed will help you a lot. By the way, Lolly, I see you in the YouTube chat. Hello, nice to see you as usual. So that's number one. Number two, it's a similar exercise, similar, but not exactly the same. but it'll still help you, is if you keep a written journal. If every day you keep a written journal where you're writing, what you did that day, what you got up to, you journal about any topic. It doesn't have to be your day, but journal about some topic. This is effective. It's not going to work for everybody because there's definitely a percentage of people who can write super fluently and they can write almost perfectly and they can construct their thoughts in a very clean and accurate way when they write, but they can't do it when they speak. So there's that to consider. But for some people, like I'm the kind of person where if I'm doing writing practice, I do find that the writing practice does, in the end, feed my speaking fluency. It does make my speaking a little bit better. But I do respect that that's not going to be the case for everybody. Not everybody's going to have that experience. But it's definitely something worth trying, and I think it can work for a variety of you. Especially if, a great thing to do, sometimes when people are doing the writing practice, there's two types of writing you can do, right? You can do one type of writing practice where you look up all the words you don't know. You take your time and you really try to write your journal entry as if you were submitting it to a teacher or submitting it to a professor to be graded. And you put in a whole hour to write a half page or a reasonably short journal entry. This is one way to do it. And that is very effective, and it will help a significant percentage of you, both with your writing ability, your grammar, but even just your spoken fluency, because writing is a form of output the same way that speaking is a form of output, and it can help a lot of you. But another type of writing practice you can do, which more closely matches what you're doing when you speak, is if you try to write without pausing and thinking about the next word, and trying to write and minimizing the pauses that you are taking. That's a different form of writing practice that equates a little bit closer to what it's like to speak in another language. So that's something worth trying as well. I'll be honest, I haven't personally tried that one, but it's been something that I've been thinking about and talking about, and I've been pondering that, and I do think it can help. I really do think it can help, even though it's not something that I personally do or have done a lot of. The other piece of advice, this is more of a standard, kind of a tried and true strategy that can work. It's not really that creative, but you need to find someone to practice speaking with on a regular basis. Whether that be a teacher, whether that be a language exchange partner, having someone to practice with at least once or twice a week, minimally, over time, that's going to help you feel more confident. That's going to help you feel more confident when you speak in another language. That's something that I've seen over and over and over with different people. When they converse with someone and they converse with them regularly and they do that practice, it does eventually help them to feel more confident in their speaking. Because where does confidence come from? Let's think about this. Where does speaking confidence come from? Speaking confidence in a language, right? One of the places where it comes from, in my perspective, by the way, LHA, L-H-A. I'm going to answer a question in just a moment here. I will answer that in just a second. So, speaking confidence, where does it come from? Well, speaking confidence comes from you feeling like you have the linguistic or language abilities to navigate most of or all of the situations that you encounter in a foreign language. That's typically, I think, where it comes from. So most of the time, let's say, here's a great example. Let's say you're taking a language class, like a Spanish class. And let's say that the times in your life where you encounter Spanish are your classroom, and maybe at work, you have some people at work who speak Spanish, and they always talk Spanish to each other. And those are kind of the two main times that you encounter Spanish: classroom and at work, when you have your coworkers who speak in Spanish. You're probably not going to feel very and let's say you're a beginner in Spanish. You're probably not going to feel very confident in Spanish because out of the two situations that you were encountering in Spanish, one of them is the classroom where you're probably struggling to learn new concepts. And the other one are the coworkers who are just talking amongst themselves in this fluent everyday Spanish that you are nowhere even close to being able to keep up with them. So of course, you just don't feel very confident. You don't feel very confident in your Spanish because the two situations where you encounter Spanish in your actual lifetime, you're not able to actually talk or communicate or do anything of use, anything useful in those situations. So you're like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm not confident. Oh, I don't speak Spanish well. Oh, I can never talk to my coworkers. Oh, my class is hard. I'm struggling. So naturally, you don't feel very confident. And where confidence comes from is where you've got a couple of different situations in your life where you're able to use the target language to actually accomplish something and be reasonably effective with it. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's look at Mandarin. Mandarin's a great example, okay? So I speak Mandarin, and I have spoken Mandarin. I have spoken Mandarin for roughly 5.5 years, something like that, maybe getting close to 6 now, getting close to it. And, if you asked me 2 months ago, how confident do you feel in your Mandarin? I would have said, I would have given you some score, a certain level of confidence. If you ask me today how confident I feel in Mandarin, I feel probably at least 50% more confident in Mandarin than I used to. And the biggest thing that has changed is that one of the situations that I regularly use Mandarin, which is when I teach English to Mandarin speakers, now I've actually studied a lot of the common things that I would like to be able to say in my classes in Mandarin that I previously didn't know how to say. And now that I do know how to say a lot of those things and I'm more comfortable with a lot of those things, all of a sudden I'm able to navigate the classes that I use Mandarin to teach in. When I speak in Mandarin to teach English, I have a lot more of the vocabulary that I would need. And I'm able to navigate that situation a little bit better than I could before. So I feel way more confident. So think about that yourself, right? What situations are you encountering in the target language in your day-to-day life? Maybe it's your classes, maybe it's a study at home program, maybe it's some people at work, maybe it's your coworkers, maybe it's someone in your family, maybe, I don't know, it's going to be different. Maybe it's you live in a country that speaks that language. It's going to be different for everybody. But look at those situations and see what can you do to make yourself more competent in those particular situations. What can you do? Is there anything you can do to increase your competency? Because that's going to increase your fluency. So I'll give you one last example, then we'll switch over to a different topic. It's like if you're taking a language class and you're maybe scared in your language class, you're nervous in your language class. What I would highly recommend you do is you start to preview future chapters before you learn those chapters in the class. So open your textbook, look through at the future chapters, start to teach yourself and preview those chapters so that when you study those chapters in class, you've already kind of seen it. And so number one, it's going to help you learn. It's going to definitely help you learn. You're going to learn more because you've already kind of previewed it. And you're going to feel more confident because you've already seen it. And you're going to get better marks, which is going to overall feed your confidence again. Does that make sense? Because you've done something that's prepared yourself a little bit. Now, the final thing I'll say in this confidence for today's video is that confidence is not only about preparation. It's not only about preparation. A lot of the things that I've said so far, some of the things I've said so far, they're more preparation oriented. Preview those previous chapters, right? I mentioned myself feeling more confident in Mandarin because I learned a set of vocabulary that I would like to use when I teach English to Chinese students, right? These are all preparations. These are all things that are more study oriented. I'm going to study this. I'm going to preview this. That gives me more confidence when I actually use it. But understand that it's not just about studying. You can't just open books and study books to feel more confident. You have to also go and apply your knowledge. You have to have a balance of the two, because ultimately where the confidence is going to come from is where you try to apply your knowledge and nothing bad happened. Because we feel nervous. We feel nervous when we're speaking another language because we think in our heads that if I speak in the language, the other person, something bad is going to happen. Something bad is going to happen. And you have to train yourself to realize that it's okay. When you use the language with other people, you're going to be okay. You're not going to die. It's going to be fine. Sometimes people won't understand. Sometimes you're going to say things that are a little bit embarrassing, but generally you have to train yourself to know that it's going to be okay. For some of you, that training process is going to be quite quick, and you'll be able to just kind of, you'll just be able to kind of get it, and your brain will figure it out, and you'll naturally be able to do that, and it's going to be okay. The same way that for some people, going out and dancing in public is totally cool. They're like, yeah, sometimes you get laughed at a bit, but it's okay. Or sometimes I look kind of dumb, but whatever, it's fine. And for other people, that's a very nerve-wracking experience. It's super scary for them. And they would never just walk outside in a public square and just start dancing and being a goofball like that. That's too scary for them. It's never something they would do, right? Or even singing. Singing is another example. Some people are perfectly comfortable singing in public, singing karaoke, for example, standing up on the stage and just singing, even though they might sound kind of dumb, they might make mistakes, like it doesn't bother them. But for some people, that's super nerve-wracking, and that's super, super scary. So in this language it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. Certain people are going to it's just going to come natural to them, and it's going to be okay pretty quickly, and certain people are not. But either way, you have to kind of see where you're at, and you have to take some gradual steps to train yourself to realize that it's okay to speak in front of people. It's okay. It's not going to be nothing terrible is going to happen to you. And you have to slowly work your way up to train yourself to realize that. So, for example, certain people, how do I say this? Sometimes people give you the advice that you just have to go and start talking to people. Just go talk to people. Just do it. It's just go and jump in the pool and just do it. But the reality is, if you really have a fear of speaking and it's a deep-seated kind of phobia, that's not the best advice for you, I don't think. For certain people, yes, you just got to be pushed in the pool. You just got to be pushed into it and just do it, and it's going to be great. Certain people, yes, that's going to be the answer. You just have to go do it. And some of you, you're going to have to work your way up to it. First, you're going to have to talk to first you have to talk to yourself using the recording strategy on your phone we talked about. Are you even comfortable doing that? Some people get scared just to take out their phone and start talking. Even that's scary as it is, right? Then you can do that. Then can you talk to a private teacher that you hire? That's a good next step, because it's just one person. You've hired them. It's a controlled environment. Then can you maybe take not a group class, sorry. Then can you go to like those free language exchange events, one in your city or maybe one online? That's a little bit scarier, a little bit less controlled, right? Maybe you can do that next. And you build your way up to feeling more confident when you speak with other people. So, all right, I want to answer some questions in the chat. I see, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Lakpa. I don't know how to pronounce it. How do you advise developing your grammar skills? So grammar, that's a very vast question. Let's start there. So I have very specific advice for very specific grammar points. It depends on what people are struggling with, and it can get very specific, and there's different pieces of advice depending on what you're trying to work on. But I'll give some general advice just based on your general question. I think first of all, I would probably say, okay, if you want to get better at grammar, I think writing is a great way to improve your grammar. Doing writing and having your writing corrected, yeah, that's a really good thing. It's a standard thing I can say based on the general nature of your question. The most general kind of piece of advice I can give you is write every day, or as often as you can. Write journals or write about certain topics regularly. And then you need to have an advanced or native speaker correct it, maybe a teacher or a tutor, have them correct it, and get and ask why you made the mistakes you made. Like, why do I have to say this like this and not this like this? Why do I have to say, grammar skills and not grammar skill? Because grammar skills, why is there S at the end of skills? Oh, because it's plural. And you'll say, what does plural mean? Then they'll have to explain to you how plurals work. So writing and getting it corrected is a very effective strategy to improve your grammar. Because when you speak, you can get away with a lot. You can really get away with a lot. You can make some mistakes and no one's going to notice. Like my grandma on my dad's side is the best example. When she speaks, like she can basically say anything that you'd want to say, that someone would want to say in English. Like she can basically say whatever. She can understand almost everything what people say. Like she's been in Canada for a long time. But if you were to write what she says down on paper, sometimes it's almost incomprehensible. You don't understand what she's trying to say. There's a text message. I should read it to you. And it's way back. I couldn't find it. I'm reading this text and I'm going, what is she saying? Like, I didn't understand it. Like, I didn't really understand. Yeah, it was difficult. I couldn't, like, it's just because her grammar is not that strong. It's not very strong. And she's never really gone through, that's not how she learned English. And so her grammar is actually quite poor. But when you speak, you wouldn't really think much of it because you might just think, oh, she has an accent or just not, it's fine. You just kind of understand everything she says. So I see, let me just quickly check any other questions in the chat, other things people wanted to ask. Adele says my Hindi sucks, or my Hindu sucks. Well, I think you mean your Hindi sucks. That's okay. My Hindi sucks too. And then we have Hindi bhi aati. Yeah, so we have a Hindi comment here on YouTube. Yes, I have my Rakhi here. We say Rakhi in Gujarati. I speak Gujarati. I don't speak much Hindi. I can understand a certain amount, but yep, this is my Rakhi. I don't speak Hindi. I speak Gujarati. So Gujarati આવડે છે, Hindi નથી આવડતો. પણ ગુજરાતી આવડે છે અને હું મારું પરિવાર સાથે ગુજરાતીમાં બોલું છું અને હા હું રાખડી પહેરેલી છે. So cool. Lolly says I like learning grammar and when I read it, it becomes easier to understand. I love learning grammar. For me, it's not boring. Cool. Awesome. Good stuff. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for watching this. I appreciate your attention. Let's wrap this up. Feel free to, I appreciate some likes, comments, shares as well if you enjoyed this. And yeah, let me end all these streams that are going. YouTube, I'll end you first. Goodbye, YouTube. Okay, now let's head over.